Good morning. Peter Quill of Guardians of the Galaxy, in the absence of his mom, having been abducted by space pirates in his early years, was only able to keep his groove on by constantly listening to the cassette music his mother made for him on a tape that he could play in his Walkman. Well, after learning the varieties of celebrating the peace, joy, and faith of Jesus that Jesus has given us, I think this strange illustration can help us see the big picture that Jesus has left us with this song from His Spirit of love and joy and peace, so that we can keep our groove on. What do you think that groove is? I think you could probably guess. It's the subject of almost every song that there is, the subject of love. One of my favorite secular writers, James Taylor, said in one song, "They keep trying to find a different line, but it never seemed to fit." Love is, unfortunately, we, like the disciples, are usually looking for a different line than love. In Mark 9:30, Jesus got the disciples on the road so that He could teach them and spend some extra time with them. And the first thing He said to them, began to say to them, was, the Son of Man is going to be betrayed, He's going to be spit upon, He's going to be killed, but on the third day He's going to rise. Now it says that the disciples didn't understand this, and they were afraid to ask Him about it. See, there's two subjects that the disciples never really wanted to talk to or listen to from Jesus, and the one was His death, and the other was their own death. And that's why as soon as they continued on the road, when they finally got to their destination, Jesus asked, well, what were you talking about on the road? Well, they didn't want to tell Him, because they were talking about who was the greatest. So Jesus answered their unconfessed sin. Anyone who wants to be first must take the last place and be the servant of everyone else. Now, how would you have felt if Jesus had said that? Stop just a minute and think about that. Well, I think you can see how the disciples felt this was a little bit like talking about their death. God's love in us, as it was in Jesus, is compassion. And that means to suffer with. Henry Nouwen says that this points us to the truth that we are the most ourselves not when we are different from others, but when we are the same, and he means really the same. The obstacle is that in the kingdom of God is based on compassion for each other, but our world system is based on its opposite, competition. That makes compassion look unwise, maybe even downright stupid. The world system seeks to earn love through doing things that are useful, spectacular, powerful. Well, Jesus, being the beloved servant, not needing to prove His love or earn it in any way, instead always chose the road to compassion. Nouwen says even those people who we look to as examples of compassion usually show that it comes out in just casual, small, everyday ways at first. So how can we develop this compassion in our lives? Well, let's turn to Jan Johnson for another good suggestion. She says, think about 1 Corinthians 13. God's love is patient, kind. It's not easily irritated. Close your eyes and dream what it would be like to have a heart that big. See yourself as acting in such a way that justice could just overflow through your life. And that's the start.